Don't you miss when Dragon Ball's canon was simple? Nowadays, you need a PhD and a log post to navigate through all the different timelines and series, and even that might not be enough. Basically, you can either go from Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z to Dragon Ball Daima, or Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z to Dragon Ball Super, or, if you really hate yourself, you can try to fit them all together and go from Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z to Dragon Ball Daima to Dragon Ball Super. But how did it end up this way? Well, the short answer is, Toriyama doesn't care. The long answer is, it's complicated, and Toriyama still doesn't care. Dragon Ball is a cash cow for multiple companies, each of which has a vested interest in keeping the story going and the cash flowing. And Toriyama, though he loves to write, does not care to draw another manga. And before Daima, he preferred to write movies rather than an entire series. His involvement in the Dragon Ball Super manga and anime series wasn't as extensive as it was with the movies, which we'll go into more detail on soon. But first, let's hop in a time machine and see just how we got to this point. Back in 1995, things were easy. Anything Toriyama wrote in the Dragon Ball manga was canon. The anime's additions were debatably canon, especially things that Toriyama suggested, like Kinkai's attendant Gregory, who isn't in the original manga. GT was a whole other issue, with fans on both sides of the aisle concerning its canon status. The 2000s were different. More than a decade after GT ended, we saw Toriyama get back in action to deliver us his first piece of Dragon Ball content in years, a 40-minute OVA titled Yo! Son Goku and His Friends Return. Released in 2008, this beautiful slice of peak was a short one-off story set shortly after the fight with Majin Buu, a time period which Toriyama seemed to be in love with. Though Yo! Son Goku was nothing more than an OVA, it was the start of something new, a small revival to the iconic series which had laid dormant for many years. And after Fox made that horrible live-action movie without listening to his input, Toriyama would once again pick up his pen to show them what Dragon Ball really looks like. The end result was the first major addition to the Dragon Ball story in 17 years, Dragon Ball Z: Battle of Gods. Released in 2013, Battle of Gods was the grand revival of the Dragon Ball franchise. It was the first animated movie since 1996's Path to Power, and unlike Path to Power, which retold the story of the original manga, Battle of Gods opened up a whole new saga, a foray into the multiverse of Dragon Ball that was hitherto unexplored. More importantly than anything, it signaled Toriyama's renewed interest in the series. Though Battle of Gods was originally Toei's idea, Toriyama took over early and ended up pretty much making the movie from scratch, including character designs and dialogue, and even the final name for the movie. He actually wrote so much that the anime staff had to cut some of his ideas out. And of course, Battle of Gods was a big success. If Yo Son Goku was a spark of life, Battle of Gods was a full-blown inferno. Between Toriyama interviews, the expectation of a sequel, and more, Dragon Ball was back, and ready to capture audiences new and old once again. Toriyama even released a new manga called Jocko, the Galactic Patrolman, that was set in the Dragon Ball universe years before OG Dragon Ball, and even has Kid Bulma in it. A special chapter of Jocko, named Dragon Ball Minus, was Toriyama's take on the Bardock story, and it was the first time we saw Goku's mom. But it wasn't all sunshine and roses. The series' revival brought with it more drama. GT had all but lost the canon wars, and some fans were even wondering how Battle of Gods, which was placed before the manga's final chapter, jived with the original manga's ending. After all, why would Goku care about Buu's reincarnation if he's a god now? But then again, he needed a ritual to turn into a god, so it's not like he could just do it on his own, right? Super Saiyan Blue is one of the most popular forms to come out of modern Dragon Ball. Introduced in 2015's Resurrection F, the form solidified Goku and Vegeta's ascent to godhood. And it also made a lot of fans wonder whether Toriyama was going to completely ignore the original ending of Dragon Ball or not, a concern which would come up time and time again going forward. Still, most people could agree on a basic canon: the original manga, plus Yo Son Goku, Battle of Gods, and Resurrection F, plus the mangas Jocko the Galactic Patrolman and Dr. Slump, a manga Toriyama had written before Dragon Ball and which had a crossover with Dragon Ball early on. But before we go any further, let's have a word from today's sponsor, Aura. I'm not talking about Piccolo Aura farming either, even though we definitely see the fit. No, I'm talking about cybersecurity. Just like Goku, Aura won't just sit back and let someone destroy your world. But while they can't suit up and fight Beerus, they can protect you from identity thieves who lurk in every corner. Aura works hard to monitor every single piece of your data that you need protected, making sure that you aren't at risk if there's a data breach, monitoring your passwords and other sensitive data, including your social security number. And if worse comes to worse and you need to pick me up, they've got something better than the Dragon Balls. We're talking about an insurance plan worth up to $5 million to make sure that you're protected no matter what. And while they can't teach you instant transmission, Aura can help you instantly change your apparent location with their VPN, which comes with over 100 countries to choose from. Add that to their secure password manager, antivirus software, and prevention of companies selling your data, and you've got protection even Goku couldn't give you. If you think Aura might be right for you, go to aura.com/dbhype for a 14-day free trial now and power up your internet safety. Later that year, Shueisha, who would seem to thrive on chaos, would pull one of the most canon-breaking movies the world has ever seen. They released a new manga titled Dragon Ball Super, which serves as a sequel, midquel, whatever, to Dragon Ball and is set, you guessed it, before the manga's final chapter. And though Toriyama was credited as the writer for the manga, it was actually drawn by someone else. A month after the manga came the anime, and things were just getting weirder and weirder. Now fans were confused. Is the new series canon, or are the movies? Or does the manga trump everything? To make matters worse, the Super anime readapted the Battle of Gods and Resurrection F movies, even though we like to pretend that never happened. And even though the manga adapted Battle of Gods, it completely skipped over Resurrection F, basically telling people to watch the movie, or show. I don't know. Over the next 3 years, Super would go on to release more than 100 episodes encompassing several arcs, including fan favorites like the Goku Black arc and the Universe Survival Saga. These arcs hugely expanded the story of Dragon Ball, but they brought plenty of questions with them. For example, which version of the story was canon to the original manga? Since the Dragon Ball manga was canon before, did the Dragon Ball Super manga take precedence now, or did the anime, which adapted multiple story arcs before the manga due to its faster release schedule, hold the crown? The answer wasn't simple. You see, Toriyama worked on both products. For the anime, he would give plot details and overviews and let the staff flesh it out. The manga was a similar case. Toriyama would tell Toyotaro the basic plots and let him make a draft, which Toriyama would then correct, focusing mostly on specific drawings and dialogue. For example, he corrected the last page of chapter 103 where Piccolo waves goodbye to the reader as everyone flies off. Though the anime and manga were based on Toriyama's ideas, they took their own liberties from time to time. For example, Vegito Blue's appearance wasn't in Toriyama's original idea for the Goku Black saga. Instead, Toyotaro said Goku and Vegeta fighting together in Super Saiyan Blue would have been more than enough to take Zamasu on. Knowing that the fans would want to see Goku and Vegeta fuse again, Toei and Toyotaro both ended up putting Vegito Blue in the fight, even though Toriyama never mentioned him. So he's not from Toriyama's own mind, but he's canon, right? We're gonna say yes, because we proudly support the Gogeta agenda, and any Vegeta L is a W for us. The anime and manga didn't just differ from Toriyama's drafts. However, they differed from each other. There are so many examples of things that the manga has that the anime doesn't, like Super Saiyan Goku Black and perfected Super Saiyan Blue, and things that the anime has that the manga doesn't, like Goku using Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken against Hit. Shortly after the anime ended in 2018, we got the first Dragon Ball Super movie, Dragon Ball Super Broly. It was the first Dragon Ball Super story wholly written by Toriyama, so you can imagine how it just added fuel to the fire. Just like the movies before, however, Toriyama let the anime staff make their own changes. For example, Broly's full power Super Saiyan form was not in the original script, but was instead added as a callback to his Z counterpart's legendary form. And let's be honest, it was the right move. Could you imagine not seeing Broly Hulk out like this? Me neither. In the end, we see that no matter how heavily involved in the production he is, Toriyama's ideas almost always get some input from others and change as a response. When he was writing the manga, he had editors to fulfill his role, but nowadays it seems Toyotaro and Toei staff are handling it. But does their input diminish the canon status of what they produce? After the Broly movie, it would be 4 years before we got another Dragon Ball Super movie. In the meantime, Toyotaro was hard at work cooking up chapter after chapter of the Dragon Ball Super manga, filling it to the brim with things that remain unadapted to this day, either in anime or movie form. It was like a reverse filler, manga-exclusive arcs and characters, many of whom are incredible and unique, like Moro the Planet Eater or his trusty robot, OG-73. It also radically expanded on established characters' stories, like making the Grand Supreme Kai actually useful, showing us that the Cell Juniors are still alive, and more. In the end, 2 whole story arcs came and went in the manga before the superhero movie was adapted, and the manga is still ongoing to this day, though it's been on sabbatical ever since Toriyama passed away. At times, the anime, manga, and movies would all contradict one another, and they even contradict themselves. For example, Kefla fights Gohan to a draw in the manga, but in the anime she's taken out by Goku. And in the Battle of Gods movie, Beerus uses 70% of his power to fight Goku as a Super Saiyan God, but in the very next movie, Goku with the new form still can't fight him one-on-one. And by the end of Dragon Ball Super, even Super Saiyan Blue with Kaioken stacked on top can't touch Beerus, meaning he used way less than 70% back then. Finally, we have Dragon Ball Daima. Oh boy. While we can admit seeing Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 4 Goku is awesome, we gotta say it, this series does not fit well with Super at all. And it's not like Toriyama didn't acknowledge Super when he was making it. After all, several concepts and characters from Super make appearances. You have Goku and Company's world being in Universe 7 for example, and Gaosu and several other deities who made their first appearances in Dragon Ball Super can be seen throughout the show. Despite all this, from episode 1, Daima was pretty much committed to contradicting Dragon Ball Super almost for no reason. For example, in Dragon Ball Super, Kibito Kai uses the Dragon Balls to defuse, but in Daima, it's explained that they let Majin Buu absorb them since the mysterious gas inside him nullifies the Potara fusion. This not only retcons Super's explanation about Kibito Kai's diffusion, but also Vegito's. After all, Gaosu explained that the reason Vegito defused was because mortals can only stay fused for up to an hour. Of course, Gaosu's explanation was itself a retcon of the mysterious gas explanation decades prior, so if anything, Daima's re-retcon is just a return to the first explanation. Kibito Kai's diffusion isn't that important to the story, and it can easily be reconciled with some fan theories. Maybe they accidentally fused again sometime after Daima, and used the Dragon Balls to split as a result. Or it can just be accepted as a retcon, like Goku's age change in Dragon Ball Minus. Some changes are harder to swallow. For example, why did Goku not go Super Saiyan 4 in Dragon Ball Super? Even if we assume it's weaker than Super Saiyan God, which is a big assumption, he could have at least tried it against Beerus when he first met him. And when he was showing off his forms against Top or against Keflo, why did he go Super Saiyan 3 but not 4? And why didn't Goku Black use Super Saiyan 4 in the manga while he was waiting to unlock Super Saiyan Blue? The simple answer is that Toriyama did not care. That's not to say he didn't care about Dragon Ball, far from it, but he didn't care whether the next story was strictly in line with the old one. He knew Super Saiyan 4 was going to be peak fiction and decided to put it in anyway. Canon be damned. Daima was made to appeal to GT fans from the start, so it's clear that connecting Daima to Super wasn't the biggest priority. Goku's explanation for the transformation at the end of the show really shows just how carefree Toriyama's world building is. Instead of being a Demon World exclusive form like some of us imagined, it was simply something he trained to do and which never helped him unlock. Toriyama has shown time and time again that he has zero problems contradicting his own story whenever he's making a new one. All of these examples showcase what we here at Hype like to call Dragon Ball's canon conundrum. The franchise went from a manga and its anime adaptation to multiple mangas, movies, and animes that all do their own thing, and all hold a valid claim at canonicity. Toriyama's final work, which he made before he passed, Dragon Ball Daima, just made everything worse. So, sit tight as we take you through the various webs of Dragon Ball and attempt to reconcile the irreconcilable. In the end, we'll show you each possible canon for Dragon Ball and let you take your pick. These are all the chronological ways to watch Dragon Ball, and we'll even throw in a reader's guide for you at no extra charge. Canon 1. The Super Canon. Dragon Ball Super is the more popular midquel to Z, so we're gonna go over it first. However, it's a long way there if you want to start from the beginning. You're gonna start out with Dragon Ball, the first series of many that introduced us to our beloved Goku. It's a bit risque at times with plenty of crude humor, so viewer discretion is advised, but I can't lie, it's great. It starts off as a carefree adventure story, a parody of another popular tale known all throughout East Asia. In episode 1, we meet the hot-headed Bulma and naive but powerful Goku as they start their quest for the Dragon Balls and change the course of history forever. I wonder what things would have been like if Goku never left the mountain. For all the fans of action, don't worry. Dragon Ball might seem slow at first, but it picks up in no time, and soon enough you're seeing Goku and company throw down with some of the best choreography in the entire series. Just look at the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai for that. We even see our first moon-busting feat at the tournament. Since OG Dragon Ball is the foundation of the franchise, it lays down a lot of important groundwork, including introducing us to major characters such as Master Roshi and Krillin, and Goku's adopted grandpa Gohan, not to be confused with his nerd son. We also get introduced to terrifying villains like Piccolo. What? You didn't know Piccolo was a villain? This is why you shouldn't just skip to Z. Besides Piccolo, OG Dragon Ball also introduces us to the Red Ribbon Army, an evil army that's plotting to take over the world. Goku crushes them pretty easily, but they'll be back. Okay, lighthearted boyhood drama, yeah, but when does it get good? When do we get to the epic Z-style fights full of blood and energy attacks that could light up a planet? Well, the tone definitely gets darker in the Demon King Piccolo saga, and the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai is the first Z-style fight in the series. You get to see Goku and Piccolo go at it in gory glory, and we even get to see the world's first Super Kamehameha. After the original series, of course, comes Dragon Ball Z, the eternally popular fan-favorite series of the franchise, and for good reason. Z takes the immense scale found in later Dragon Ball and turns it up to 11. If you thought Roshi blowing up a moon was crazy, just wait till you see what Vegeta does with 2 fingers. The series goes from the Saiyan saga, where we find out about Goku's extraterrestrial origins, and meet our second main character, Vegeta, all the way to the Majin Buu saga, where Goku and company fight the embodiment of chaos. a pink bubblegum monster. In between, we meet Frieza, who's responsible for destroying Goku's homeworld and setting pretty much the entire series in motion, Goku's son Gohan, and more. And we get to see the Red Ribbon Army make their grand return. Androids 17, 18, 19, and 20 are all the work of Dr. Gero, a faithful Red Ribbon Army scientist who worked in secret to get revenge on Goku for what he did to them so many years ago. And that brain on Android 20's head? That's the Doctor himself. The Majin Buu saga is especially important, as it's chronologically the end of Toriyama's story. You see, after Majin Buu is defeated, there's a flash forward to 10 years in the future. We see Goku and the gang meeting up for a world martial arts tournament, and Goku ends up flying off to train Majin Buu's reincarnation. The sequel series and movies all take place within that 10-year gap, meaning that the Majin Buu saga really is the end of Dragon Ball. After you watch Z, you'll want to head over to Yo Son Goku and his friends return. This 35-minute special is our first foray into the post-Majin Buu Dragon Ball, and it introduces us to Vegeta's mild-mannered brother, Tarble. Our next stop is Dragon Ball Super Episode 1. Z started out with a huge revelation that shook the foundation of Dragon Ball, so it's only fitting that Super does too. Goku meets the god of destruction Beerus and steps into divinity himself to do battle with him for the fate of the Earth. Though Goku can't win, he entertains Beerus enough to keep him happy, and Earth is spared as a result. From there, we go to the Resurrection F saga, where Goku fights a revived Frieza, and the viewer fights the urge to just watch the movie instead because of the horrible animation. The first two arcs each give us a new form. First, Super Saiyan God, then Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, which, if the name isn't clear, is a Saiyan who's attained the power of a Super Saiyan God, and then further transforms to Super Saiyan. Man, that's a mouthful. The first two sagas are expanded adaptations of the Battle of Gods and Resurrection F movies, but after that, Super comes out swinging with its first original arc, and this time we're going cross-universal, baby. Goku and company face off against their neighbors from Universe 6 in the God of Destruction Invitational saga, which introduces us to Universe 6 and its interesting cast of characters. These include fan favorites like Hit, Beerus' twin brother Champa, Whis' big sister Vados, and Base Kaba, aka Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta Victim. And it introduces us to arguably the most powerful character in Dragon Ball ever, Zeno, the king of everything. We also get to see the titular Super Dragon Balls in action. These are apparently the original Dragon Balls, and they can do anything. Beerus uses them to restore Universe 6's Earth so his brother Champa can have some good food. I knew he had a heart. After the Universe 6 arc, we see Trunks' perpetually depressing future. You'd have thought that things would be awesome after the androids were gone, but it seems like Trunks is a magnet for evil people. After a psychopathic Kai with a deep-seated hatred for mankind steals Goku's body, even though Jiren was right there, just saying, he goes to Trunks' future to wreak havoc. His plan? Wipe out all Ningen and create his paradise. Of course, this Goku Black loses when Goku and Vegeta fuse into Vegeto, the most incredible, absolutely invincible fighter in the universe. Zeno nukes Trunks' timeline, officially making everything they did to help him at least 50% useless. And we go on to the next arc like nothing happened. Two Zenos now though. If you thought blowing up one universe was crazy, just get a load of this. The Universe Survival arc, which is pretty much the entire second half of Super, centers on the Tournament of Power. A 48-minute battle royale, where if you lose, your entire universe gets erased. The last fighter standing gets a wish on the Super Dragon Balls though. I wonder how they'll use it. 8 universes, including Goku's Universe 7, are forced to compete. This is the most popular arc in Super, thanks in no small part to Goku going Ultra Instinct in his legendary showdowns with Jiren, a stoic gray alien who is the literal embodiment of more power. After all is said and done, Android 17, who was originally programmed to kill Goku, ends up winning it all, and selflessly wishes to restore all the destroyed universes. It turns out that this was the only right wish to make, as any other wish would have resulted in the winner's universe being destroyed as well. After everyone goes home, we see Goku and Vegeta sparring one last time, ending the series on a high note and a feeling of wonder at what's to come. That's it for the anime. Of course, Dragon Ball Super had 2 movies come out afterwards. First was Dragon Ball Super Broly, which starts with a look into Planet Vegeta's last days, meaning it takes place even before OG Dragon Ball. We get to see Goku's dad Bardock, his mom Gine, Kid Raditz, Kid Vegeta, Not Balt Nappa, and more. And we even get to see the destruction of Planet Vegeta in beautiful animation. Flash forward some years, and we're reintroduced to Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan. He's as peak as ever, but even he can't beat the real #1 Fusion, who has more canon wins than that other guy, by the way. After Broly comes Dragon Ball Super, Superhero, Toriyama's final film. This one is centered on Piccolo and Gohan, who both get new forms to fight the remnants of the Red Ribbon Army. If Dr. Gero gave birth to Cell, it only makes sense that his even more genius grandson gave birth to Cell Max, a giant kaiju version of Cell that would curb stomp Jiren. And that's it for Dragon Ball Super. Canon 2, the Daima canon. This one starts out much like the Super canon. Watch OG Dragon Ball, then Dragon Ball Z. However, instead of going on to Super to watch Rainbow Super Saiyans and back tingles, you go to Dragon Ball Daima and watch real peak. We're talking Water Vegeta, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, Piccolo who doesn't do much except farm aura, and of course, the one, the only, the fabulous Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Honestly, this form alone makes Daima better than Super. Daima's only 20 episodes, so there isn't much to say about the timeline. It's pretty straightforward. That said, it does seem to majorly contradict Super. Besides Kibito Kai and Super Saiyan 4, some other contradictions include the Demon Realm Dragon Balls being the original and Majin Raimus being the top dog in the multiverse. But hype, you ask. Why does it have to be one or the other? Can't we enjoy both as fans of the series? Indeed you can. If you want to watch Daima and Super and don't really care too much about the contradictions between them, then the suggested chronological order is as follows: Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Yo-Son Goku, Dragon Ball Daima, and Dragon Ball Super, followed by the movies Broly and Superhero. Alternatively, you can skip the first two arcs of Super and watch Battle of Gods and Resurrection F instead. That's it for canon anime. If you want to include the non-canon or quasi-canon movies and specials, which are excellent viewing material in their own right, then the order goes thus. Bardock, the father of Goku. This non-canon OVA introduced the world to Goku's father, Bardock, and showed us exactly how Goku came to Earth. Though it's not canon anymore, having been superseded by Toriyama's own take on the Bardock story, this OVA was seemingly canon for a while, as Toriyama referenced it on panel during the Namek Saga when Frieza recognizes Goku as Bardock's son. Dragon Ball, Path to Power, and Dragon Ball, Curse of the Blood Rubies. Both of these movies retell the original story of Dragon Ball from the very beginning, though they each differ from the original manga and anime. While Path to Power is more faithful to the original manga, Curse of the Blood Rubies came first, and they're different enough from each other to watch both. OG Dragon Ball. Watch until Goku and Krillin begin training with Roshi. Dragon Ball, Sleeping Princess in Devil's Castle. This movie showcases early Dragon Ball's very mystical side, as the villain of the story is a vampire who wants to destroy the sun and create an eternal night. The weapon he plans to use to do so is technically the strongest thing we see in Dragon Ball until the Cell Saga, right? Back to OG Dragon Ball. Watch until the end of the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai, Dragon Ball Mystical Adventure. This movie features characters seen in the Tenkaichi Budokai in a different light, such as Emperor Chiaotzu, and is another retelling of the original manga story, though like before, it takes plenty of creative liberties. We also get to see Aurelie and Goku together. Aren't they cute? Finish up with Dragon Ball and start watching Dragon Ball Z Dead Zone. This movie is special because it got an entire anime arc in Z as a sequel. It's supposed to take place sometime before Goku meets Raditz, but the exact details are kind of fuzzy. If you're a fan of great fight choreography, you're in for a treat, as this movie has some of the best fights Dragon Ball has to offer. Next, start Dragon Ball Z. After the Saiyan Saga, you're gonna watch the World's Strongest and the Tree of Might. Turles was evil Goku before it was cool, and he was eating fruits to get powerful way before Kaguya did it. But hey, I'm not gonna say anything. Click back over to Z and watch up until Goku's ready to head to Namek, then do a complete 180 and watch Lord Slug. No, it doesn't make sense, but hey, that's how it goes. Now, look at False Super Saiyan and Kaioken times 100 and be happy. Back to Z. Frieza's dead. Namekians went home, and Goku's somehow on Earth. Now it's time for Cooler's revenge. Then he gets revenge for his revenge because he didn't get revenge during his first revenge and instead must get revenge in the return of Cooler. Back to Z. Androids 17 and 18 kill Gero, but no worry, we got androids 13, 14, and 15 cooking up devious plans to... oh no. Well, that was Super Android 13. Keep watching Z until right before the Cell games, then click over to Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan. This is where it all started. The first movie so legendary that Toriyama himself had to make a canon version. And honestly, Broly is terrifying. More than that, we get to see Piccolo's fit on full display. Back to Z for the Cell games. Sometime after comes BoJack Unbound, the one movie that can proudly say it has no major contradictions to the main storyline. We also get to see Teen Gohan's coolest scene ever right at the end. Next, we have Broly, Second Coming. Yes, Gohan was a Super Saiyan too, get over it. After that comes the Majin Buu saga. Right after Goku goes back to Otherworld, we get two movies, one peak, and the other... First comes Bio Broly, which we'll give credit for prominently featuring characters not named Goku or Gohan. And then comes Fusion Reborn, where we're introduced to perhaps the most unique villain in Dragon Ball history, as well as the most glorious fusion. Back to Z. Watch till Goku finishes off Majin Buu and wishes back all the dead. Then flip over to Wrath of the Dragon. In case anyone thought Gotenks or Gohan was stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Goku, let this this movie serve as a permanent reminder that you are wrong. Wrath of the Dragon also introduces one of the coolest moves in Dragon Ball history, the Dragon Fist. After that, we go back to our regularly scheduled programming with Daima, Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, Super, Broly, and Superhero. Then finally, go back to Dragon Ball Z and watch the original 10-year time skip ending. Finally, you're done. Was it hard? If Z is too long, you can swap it out for Dragon Ball Kai, a shorter remastered version of the series which is more faithful to the original manga, but beware of the green tint in the Buu saga. Then of course there's Dragon Ball GT, a non-canon sequel to Z made by Toei Animation that takes place after the 10-year time skip. This is where we first saw the best Super Saiyan form in action. And even though they say Dragon Ball fans can't read, we know it isn't true. For all our manga fans out there, the canon chronological order is Dragon Ball minus Jaco the Galactic Patrolman and the original Dragon Ball manga, followed by the Dragon Ball Super manga. However, the manga skips over the Resurrection F arc, so we suggest watching the movie. We also suggest watching Battle of Gods since the manga adaptation is very brief. And if you want to be a super completionist, consider watching or reading Dr. Slump. After all, Aurelia is in the Dragon Ball manga, which means she's canon, so Dr. Slump probably is too. So there you have it, the super complicated Dragon Ball canon made a little bit less complicated. However you watch it, just make sure you enjoy it, and subscribe to DB Hype for more awesome Dragon Ball content.